because, well, that's their culture. It's thanks to multiculturalism that some people in the West today reflexively dismiss even the noblest aspects of the liberal tradition, but can't bring themselves to condemn even such plainly reprehensible acts as female genital mutilation and forced marriage. For they've been taught that it's more important to respect differences between cultures than to be concerned about the human individuals who are the victims of those differences. And it's thanks to multiculturalism that some supposedly intelligent people in the West are virtually incapable of acknowledging the nature, the scale, and in many cases even the very reality of the menace that the values of Sharia, the values of the Quran, pose to a truly diverse, tolerant, and secular liberal democracy. So it was, then. So it was that European authorities closed their eyes to women who had lived in their countries for decades without even knowing that they had a legal right not to be beaten or bullied by their fathers, husbands, brothers, and sons. They closed their eyes to the young girls born in Europe for whom the idea of being able to choose one's own spouse was and would forever remain a romantic fantasy. And in many cases, shamefully, they even closed their eyes to honor killings, the murders by parents and siblings of girls and women who, in some cases only by doing no more than looking at a boy the wrong way, had, according to Islamic belief, soiled the family honor. European authorities were so much the prisoners of multiculturalism that they could actually believe that their obligation in such matters was not to protect innocent children from brutality, but to display sensitivity to cultural differences. Within Europe's Muslim communities, only a very few unimaginably bold men and women dared to speak out against the traditional Sharia-based autocracy of the mullahs and imams. And when they did so, they were not defended, let alone praised for it by the government or the media or the professors, but were rather accused of betraying their people and rocking the boat. Take the writer Walid al-Qubaisi, who came to Norway from Iraq many years ago, and who has recounted a conversation he had with the ethnic Norwegian director of what al-Qubaisi described as a, quote, international cultural center. This cultural bureaucrat plainly thought of himself as being devoted heart and soul to the welfare of immigrants. Yet when al-Qubaisi raised the question of the freedom of Muslims to criticize or even leave their own religion, the cultural bureaucrat was displeased. "You are a Muslim, Walid," he said, "and must not lose your identity." "But do you believe," Walid asked, "that I will lose my identity if I believe in freedom of expression?" "Listen," the man said, "this is something you decide for yourself, but your attitude causes a lot of problems. We want to create a multicultural society, and we don't want to dissolve these foreign cultures. Your attitude alters all our plans. It creates conflicts between immigrants." So it goes. While Western Europe's multicultural mentality views native Westerners as individuals who have an inalienable right to self-determination, it views Muslim immigrants as members of a group with its own collective self-definition. And while those within the group who labor to reinforce and to enforce that self-definition are rewarded, those who try to live as individuals in ways that are inconsistent with the community orthodoxy are seen as making problems and creating conflicts. For the only legitimate identity that they have in the eyes of European multiculturalists is a collective identity, an identity yoked entirely and irrevocably to skin color, ethnicity, and religious background. If ethnic Europeans may choose to belong to any religion or none, but are expected to respect the law, Muslims, as Walid al-Qubaisi has put it, are seen as religious beings by nature, and therefore as people who cannot be expected to conform to European law and culture, but who cannot be blamed for adhering to even the most inhumane of Quranic precepts. It's precisely this kind of multicultural thinking that has led judges across Europe to give the perpetrators of honor killings not heavier sentences because their crimes are premeditated, but lighter sentences because their crimes in the eyes of the perpetrators' native cultures are not crimes at all. Norway's most famous lawyer has even argued that the punishment for honor killing should officially be set lower than that for other murders, his argument being that when a man has acted in accordance with his own culture's values, it is wrong, indeed arrogant, for us to consult our culture's values when determining his sentence. With few exceptions, the Western European establishment's entire approach to Islam is shaped by this perverse kind of thinking. In Britain, the Queen has knighted Salman Rushdie, but she has also knighted a man who called for Salman Rushdie's death. Ken Livingstone, when he was mayor of London, not only played host to and touted the progressive credentials of Yusuf al-Qaradawi, who supports suicide bombing and the execution of gay people, but he also smeared the reputations of gay activists who criticized him for doing so. In the Netherlands, Amsterdam Mayor Job Cohen has called for, and I quote, accommodation with Orthodox Muslims, by which he means Orthodox Muslim men, quote, who consciously discriminate against their women, yes, their women, quote, unquote, and the acceptance of, quote, opinions and habits on the part of these Muslims, even if we do not share them or even approve of them. Cohen did not make it clear where he would draw the line, at forced marriage, at wife-beating, at honor killing. I want to call special attention here to the ease with which a supposed liberal, such as Cohen, is able to fall into the practice of rendering Muslim women invisible by using Muslims as a synonym for Muslim men and referring to women as if they were indeed those men's property. In recent years, Western European citizens have been hauled into court, or will soon be, for writing books, for making films, or for just saying things about Islam that were less than laudatory. The Archbishop of Canterbury has embraced the inevitability of Sharia law in the land of Magna Carta. That same country has denied entry to a Dutch MP, Geert Wilders, because of things he said and written about Islam, thereby confirming Wilders' own argument about the readiness of European governments to placate Islamists by silencing their critics. A couple of years ago, the then Dutch Minister of Justice said that if 2/3 of Dutch voters wanted to introduce Sharia law in the Netherlands, he would have to accept it because, as he put it, quote, it would be a disgrace to say this is not permitted. And Ayaan Hirsi Ali, who was born in Somalia, ran away to the Netherlands from a planned forced marriage here in Canada, actually, and ended up as a member of the Dutch Parliament. Ayaan Hirsi Ali has been equated by leading academic intellectuals with the Islamist thugs who threaten her life. These intellectuals argue that if Hirsi Ali's opponents are Islamic fundamentalists, then Hirsi Ali, because she stands up unequivocally and uncompromisingly for liberty, is, in their words, an Enlightenment fundamentalist. In their view, what is desirable is to be what they consider moderate, flexible, accommodating. In other words, to be willing to sacrifice freedom on the altar